Ladies, gentlemen, and all Mo and Krills alike, can you believe we have now hit number 52 here on the Deadlock Night Shift? 1 full year of bringing you weekly action every single Wednesday with the best teams from North America and the best teams from EU going head to head to prove who is the best in their respective regions. I'm your host or caster or just the man who messes up math constantly on air, Jason Kaplan, joined by a very special guest to my left-hand side. We got Sundown. How are you doing, man? It's been forever since we've talked.
It's been absolutely forever, and I'm super excited to be here. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Deadlock. I actually got my start in the gaming industry going all the way back with 3D MOBAs, so to be able to be here and cast some of the action for the first time is super exciting. So thank you for the opportunity, and on the 1-year anniversary as well, like happy 52 weeks.
Well, we got to ask, before we hop into this fully though, Sundown, who's your main right now in the game?
Right now, I would say I probably have the most recent hours on Rem. I've been a dirty Rem enjoyer all the way through, but it's also like trying to kind of like build a little bit of damage to go with the healing as well. My goal is to hit kind of that like 40k damage, 40k healing mark, and when I'm able to do that, I win a decent amount of games. But I'll also like give the caveat that my peak is like high Ascendant. I think like Ascendant 5 before all the rework and stuff came through. So definitely still have a lot to learn.
Unfortunately, you're probably lower ranked than 99% of our chat if chat has to say something about that. And I'm glad I didn't pair you with ZP today because you guys might clash because he is a Rem hater. But you know what we don't hate here? The format for all the new viewers who are joining us every single week and what this is all about here on the show. It's a King of the Hill style event where if we have enough teams, we actually do qualifier matches. Which you can see Leviathan did take on Slice and Dice and did beat them. I don't know what the score was, but they did in fact beat them, making their way through into a challenger match where they'll meet up against Abrahams. And of course, the winner of that will take on a reigning champion of last week of Buff and Joris, who have been doing it week in and week out, really proving to be the best team over in EU. Well, Sundown North America has had a lot of roster changes, and we have a new face join us in here in the name of Vanguard.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see what Vanguard is going to be able to bring going up against melee creeps. They'll see if they'll be able to kind of like crack into that stalwart guard going through. And they also have a couple of very interesting players going through. There's one coming off of the Fisher College team in the collegiate circuit there. So some names that you might have seen before, that's Shadow Viz. So it'll be interesting to see, but we can't forget about EU coming up first.
Oh man, I'm so excited what's going to be happening in EU because we've had Leviathan have their ups and downs. Abrahams, hopefully in their sake, coming back in full force with Shark returning to the roster. Not quite sure if that will be happening yet today, but I'm curious to see if they can finally take down, honestly, I mean, Sundown, maybe I'll get your opinion on this. The best team in the world, I would say, in Buff Enjoyers.
I mean, they've just looked so good consistently across. Like, it hasn't mattered the patch. They've been able to adjust for it. They'll pull out picks. We saw last week in particular with the McGinnis patch midway through. So we'll see if they're able to adjust this week as well and kind of continue that rolling. But I think it's just their level of consistency and their ability to game plan just separates them that much more from the other EU teams.
Yeah, and I mean, obviously some team has to catch up eventually. We'll find out who it's going to be someday, maybe today. We'll see. But before we can move on here, we got to obviously talk about all the support you guys have given us here, whether you guys have been just viewers, whether you guys subbed us on YouTube, whether you donate money, whether you gift subs, or you're a Patreon sub as well here for our Patreon that we have. It's been a tremendous feat doing 52 shows, but it's been such a pleasure being here with all of you out there. And let's actually take a look at some of our supporters so we can do our weekly event that we have of calling out one in particular individual. This is your first time, Sundown. I feel like I'm running out of names here, but obviously like our big supporters here at the top, Affix, Incredible Mouse, Skinna, and Tetsio, $250 every single month to be our board members. But like always, you got to choose one person to talk about here. I'm going to go first to give you a chance. And I'm going to go Winter at the bottom, $5 night shift resident, because you know what? It has been damn hot here in Italy, and I kind of miss winter.
You know, I'm actually really excited you called out winter because I will be moving away from the Great White North relatively soon, and I'm happy to end up dodging the winter. So that's a good call out on that side of things. But I'll also call out another $5 night shift resident down there for Violet, because I'm hoping today for some violent team fights, right? Like, I want to see people get into it. I want to see the mix. I always use the term, like, I want to see people press some buttons, man. Get in there, not be afraid to burn the cooldowns, get a little aggressive, and see who's able to kind of get the priority going.
Well, it's all about the burger boxing or baguette battling, depending on what region you're in. But also, not only are you guys supporting us, but if you guys haven't noticed, Intel is coming back once again here with their Intel Gamer Day, supporting us, bringing our prize pool up to 4K every single week here for 3 more weeks, including this week. They've been here for the entire 4, and they do have their Intel Gamer Days last until September 13th. You guys can type !IGD in the chat to see all their amazing deals they have. But we're so happy to have them every single time when they do partner up here on the night shift. And also, like on every Thursday, you guys have action not only on Wednesdays, you have the new graveyard shift happening every single Thursday, the exact same time right now. I'm not sure who's going to be on it this week. I can confirm Jake's not going to be here because he's in Busan, but I believe ZP will be here and we'll have Lightbringer and a guest as well. Also, big shout out here to Kursaka once again coming with 10 gifted. But Sundown, is time to finally start talking about the matches coming up here today. Let's take a look here at the roster of Abrahams. This team, I feel like they've been tweaking their iterations. They do have obviously their core of like Saint Together and Task. I think we have to say are their core for now on, because Arzo is one of the newer additions, but he has obviously been in the team for quite a long time. Shark has also a recent joiner to this team, but OCs is the new one. And OCs for me has been really interesting as a player because he used to be a strong M1 carry, but we were treated to some pocket play out of him last week.
Yeah, I actually really enjoyed the shift off of M1 for him because it felt like he was allowed to be a little bit more versatile, a little bit more impactful, kind of getting into those team fights, having options to get out, and not necessarily needing to be as reliant on others for the setup, as reliant on sitting in the sideline for a bit, really building up those souls before getting into the fights. He did it by getting involved in the action. And frankly, that's where we've seen OCs be his best in a lot of those circumstances. Not to say that he can't flex over onto the M1, but I would definitely like to see if he has something else similar to the pocket in his bag.
I think it does increase his threat level. I think one thing we said about him individually as a player is that if you don't stop him in the game when he's playing M1s, then you're going to have to deal with him later on in the game. And that's where he really starts to excel, unless he's on Mina, where he can be more pivotal in the mid game. But the ability to be able to flex different roles, it kind of gives him like him and Zergy, Cosmetical, and Arzo kind of like overlap in the roles technically, where, Cosmetical and Zergy can switch out the heroes they're playing. OCs and Arzo, I think, can also do the switch within the team. And then Shark as well, which we saw Lash become such a priority out of a lot of teams in the night shift. Shark definitely had a fantastic play on him. But then again, so can OCs. But this team, if we're to talk about maybe someone besides OC, since this is your first time here on the show, I want to hear your thoughts about maybe another individual you wanted to point out here.
I mean, you had mentioned the core, but it's got to be like, what can Arzo do trying to mix in with this roster, right? Like, what is he able to actually do? We've seen him kind of impressing a little bit more, finding his groove when working with the others. Can he continue to be able to do that? Is he able to kind of generate those picks on the side? Is he going to be able to find the fights that necessarily end up making him successful? I think that tends to be the linchpin on whether or not Abrahams is really able to push forward. And I think it's going to come down to a combination of that, and then can they get a little creative in the draft? Can they do something, disguise who somebody is going to end up going to, maybe pick away a strong pick from Leviathan to give them just that little bit of edge? Because let's be honest, it's been kind of a revolving door of these top teams in EU, and every little bit of advantage you're able to create before you even get into the match helps tremendously at this point.
Yeah, and hero pools and depth of hero pools is something we talk about a lot when it comes to buff enjoyers. But one thing we're going to have to talk about now is the opponents in this first match of Leviathan, who have once again made some subtle roster changes, or I believe they have, where I believe Freemock is coming back into the team and Captain is going to be coming out. So they've had their own switches happening once again, trying to find the roster that really does set them up correctly. But this has also, I think, been a team that's kind of relied on McGinnis in last week for some success. And with McGinnis being nerfed in the middle of the show last week, I'm not sure if they're going to be able to run that yet again here. But the thing is, for me, they have, by name, such strong individual players, but something has been missing within the team, and we're not quite sure what.
Yeah, and it's really hard to find out what that X factor is, particularly when you do have a revolving door of players on that side of things, right? Whether it is Captain or Freemock who ends up coming through. But you talk about some of the individual skills. A lot of people may know I came from the Fortnite background. I've seen a ton of Irazumi. I've seen a ton of Freemock. They are insanely mechanically talented. And when you do end up putting on them on a hero who is strong in the current meta, strong in the current patch, they are able to really kind of push the limits in that regard, which we saw with Irazumi. But as you noted, like, will they go back to that McGinnis? I think McGinnis is still fairly good. She's strong. There's still a couple of things she does well, but she doesn't have just the raw numbers that were in place that made how they were playing her before super effective. So that for me is going to end up being like, how do they adjust to that? And can they work a draft in that gets them the power picks they need to really be able to go toe to toe with Abrahams? Because like, Abrahams is going to want to fight straight up.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that is Abrahams to a T, and not a lot of teams can actually beat them in the early game. But you did mention like individual players like Freemock, and I wanted to say something about him because we did see him subbing in for Abraham's last week. And he did play Shiv in their second game against Buff Enjoyers. But Shiv right now, I think that's one of the very few picks we've seen in the last few weeks for him. I think maybe Arctic has picked him up once, if I'm not mistaken. But Shiv has just kind of fallen off, and whether that's just an overcorrection or I guess it would be an overcorrection, not undercorrection, is still yet to be seen. But when Leviathan have had their success with Freemock on the team and without OCs there, I feel like it was Freemock doing most of the work, him and Overseas together being like the Bash brothers. But as a final note here, I want to hear your thoughts. Dimov in 2025 was voted the best player in EU. Like, it was like him and Hoot. And we haven't seen that Dimov. It's been shades of his former self, and he just hasn't been able to, well, I mean, some people have been saying ever since he's went over to North America, he hasn't been playing as well. Whether that's true or not is yet to be discussed, but he hasn't really proven to be that player, that star player we saw back when he was playing with Buff Enjoyers.
Oh man, don't get me started on the NA versus EU conversations, because as somebody who frequently gets thrown on the EU servers, I will say sometimes I feel like the EU players just want it a little more. And I can't help but feel like if you are playing in those very top lobbies and you're in there with everybody trying their hardest in that environment, like maybe that does make and translate a little bit to your day to day. And does that end up adding up? I don't think that's necessarily the answer though. Like, yeah, you could say that, but I think in reality, it's more a combination of a lot of the picks that he was used to playing have gotten some adjustments coming through. There's been a little bit of a push away from that like very M1 heavy dominant feel. And I think the play styles and the players around him have changed a little bit, where he likes to kind of be the one setting the tempo, going through, dishing out the damage and controlling the fights. And without his ability to do that, I think even when he was the standout player, like he still kind of fell off a little bit, right? Like he might have not been like, he's S tier when he's the one controlling that tempo, but if you're able to knock him down and kind of like push him back a little bit, like he still sometimes falls into A tier, and I think that's what we've seen so far.
Well, it is time to get into our Mo and Crow 1v1 here in our 50-second show to determine who gets choice of first pick or second. And over in EU, obviously, one thing that comes to mind going into this is that we had a patch happen in the middle of the show last week. So we didn't see the changes to Billy and the changes to McGinnis being pushed into the side of EU. I'm curious, in particular, is Billy still going to be prioed as a top 2 pick across the board here?
Oh, I would be shocked if he wasn't, right? The amount of pressure that Billy is able to add, and also anti-pressure. He combos for other people with his ultimate ability. He is able to close the gap. He's able to be such an effective frontline that there's very few other options. Plus, he's comfort, both for people who enjoy playing it and going against it. So
that was, I mean, I'm so sorry. That was a smackdown by together. He hit like a back-to-back parry, and he just did the ore stand there and baited another parry to finish him off. That was pretty damn good. But yeah, I mean, Billy, like the 10% max HP instead of the damage. I mean, I've been seeing people post, and I've been seeing on TikTok, you're hitting some like obscenely high numbers in HP pools when it comes to Billy. But I think most of the success, if I get my words out, was around the fact that he was tanky and he did do a lot of damage as well. But we're going to find out here. Obviously, Pocket is something as well that I'm curious to see if it will be banned away, and it will indeed. Doorman, is he going to maintain priority in bans? Maybe. I almost want to see teams shake it up and throw a Billy ban in there, to be honest.
Yeah, honestly, I feel like a Billy ban would really set the tone here for setting Leviathan up for success, particularly with Abraham's taking away the pocket on that side. But also, like, I figured Doorman was either going to get banned right here or picked immediately with EU's love and obsession of Doorman. His setup ability, his anti-carry ability is just too strong and honestly just frustrating to play against at times.
Let's see, what's the first pick coming through? Will Billy stay true? No, actually, Lash. The stocks, they've been going up and up and up, and I might have to get my cosplay out once again because we're getting close to October here. And hit the gym quite a bit more. But Lash, man, I feel like he's just been nonstop picked for the last 2-3 weeks of time, and it's been consistently thrown into this like gun carry role.
Yeah, I love Lash. As somebody who learned the game completely playing on him, I'm just going to ignore that tangent completely. Early pick Rem, first round Rem coming out from Leviathan is nuts, but you have seen like 9 wins, 7 losses he's been going through. He offers a lot of support potential, and also it kind of then gives the opportunity for them to go through and pressure the uncontested boxes underneath. However, noting Leviathan is 0-4 playing the Rem so far, so maybe they know something we don't know. They follow it up with the Mirage pick, which I like a lot better. 14-7 coming through so far on the night shift. A very reliable M1 solo laner who offers that global pressure across the map.
I feel like production did you real dirty there, honestly, because they're like, yeah, like look at the win rate, it's really good, and then it switches to the, oh yeah, but they're 0-4 on Rem. So good. Did not expect that, honestly, and I can't wait to see chat actually catch up to this of like a Rem as a first pick. So we talk a lot about on the show as well when it even McGinnis. So I'll hold off on McGinnis for a second. The pick priority and the value you get off the pick priority that you put on certain heroes. So if you're going to be picking Rem first, we better see the value off of that be shown into this game. And I mean, Saint is a fantastic Rem. I would say probably the best Rem that we have in EU. The amount of boxes he does steal away. Well, speaking of boxes, I mean, Calico and Rem together gives you full tonal control. So we kind of have a game plan for Leviathan already off the bat, but McGinnis on the other side here, son. And you were saying before, like, yeah, obviously some nerfs coming into the gun, but still think she is viable and does quite a bit in like certain scenarios. And Saint as well has proven to be a very good McGinnis.
Yeah, and I think the wall being a big aspect, being able to separate out the team fights, create that physical barrier that regardless of how good your movement is, somebody has to deal with in the circumstance. And it pairs very well with the Abrams. But also, like, I wonder if Abrahams knows something we don't on this side, because they're 1-8 piloting that hero. So it's like, we're trying to figure out here, somebody's going to end up winning and increasing their win rate on one of the two blue dudes. But it seems like they have a game plan when they're trying to set up the pick, get the charge, pull somebody back and away, and then get those two big team fights, like get the Lash ultimate death slam into the Abrams ult and kind of get that combo up. And we'll see now the two bans coming out with Apollo and Billy, and then following up with the immediate Bebop lock-in.
To be fair, by the way, on these like win rates, you have to keep in mind Leviathan hardly break through anymore into the money match, so they'll generally always have losses. And for Abrahams, they get one win a week and then they lose to Buff Enjoyers. So but I know what you mean. Obviously McGinnis, it's not a great showing, but I think Saint has definitely earned his stripes when it comes to McGinnis. But a Bebop coming on through, so a good way to deal with Lash. Now Celeste, on the other hand, I've been seeing a ton of people playing Celeste. I've been watching Dude play. I've been watching Disco Virtuoso play. I've been watching people realize, even Zergy playing her, that she is still insanely good. And maybe with some nerfs to a couple of heroes like Billy, for instance, not having to worry about Chain Gang, maybe we might see the rise of Celeste once again.
Yeah, and then following up the Celeste pick, Mo and Krill. So, I mean, we got every single one of the characters who has access to the vents in the game. We're going to brawl down there in some way, shape, or form. But I think that's a very interesting pick. But with the amount of M1 and pressure that's coming out, the disarm for Mo, the amount of value he's going to be able to get from those heals, I think it's all going to come down to if they're able to execute on these early picks and really get running. And now we see Leviathan rounded out with Drifter and Lady Geist. So I don't mind that, but it's also like, how much of your front line is going to be coming from sustain and trying to get your ball rolling early? Because the answer is a lot.
Yeah, for me, okay. Oh my god, what is happening this week? What is going on? I mean, it is number 52, so it's great to have some crazy picks. But I mean, one thing. Okay, I'm gonna talk about Leviathan really quickly. One thing you have to think about when I look at their composition is, where is their pressure and kills going to come from? And I think a lot of what we've been noticing in these last weeks of play is that having like a human ward is very important, especially when you're trying to get deep in the enemy jungle and you're trying to look for those catches. And Calico is very good at facilitating that. Bebop is very good at creating those opportunities. Then you have Geist and Drifter, even Rem thrown in there to help lock down these kills. Abraham's side, though, they're like, we don't really care about the individual jungle picks. We want to just team fight you with this whole composition that they have. And that is insanely scary. So already off the bat, I look at this as Leviathan need to have a strong early mid game. And Abrahams, if you hold on to the mid to late game, you're probably going to win this match.
Yeah, I mean, Abraham's just, if they slam their face on the keyboard after like 30 minutes and they're able to make there and the souls are remotely close, like it's so hard for them to end up losing a team fight. And I love the last pick Dynamo. If you're going to end up picking Dynamo, it has to be in a situation where the opponent can't end up pulling out a Sinclair and making you completely irrelevant and being able to pull that counter pick out, and just adding that additional team fight ult in the setup so you don't have to be reliant on hitting that ridiculous death slam in order to get it up, and just focusing on that. I think it really enables this team fight style. And then also the stomp giving you a little bit more guaranteed CC. I think there's a lot of very strong skirmish potential here. But you look on Leviathan side, and I think as soon as you pair that Calico with a Rem and they're roaming around, or they're able to get over to a Drifter side lane and create some picks, they can be very scary right around that like 7 to 10 minute mark. And if they catch Abrahams out on some of those rotations and they're not spot on, it could get very ugly very fast.
Really quickly here, another again, big shout out here to Chrisana14 with another 10 gifted every single week. Wow. I think it's been like almost 52 weeks now of Chrisana just gifting subs. So thank you again so much for your support. Man, I looked at the Mo and Krill and I'm thinking to myself, again, like the value of Mo and Krill comes from the early mid game. It comes from your ultimate, it comes from getting the combos off and converting those into kills and converting that into pressure later on in the game. We've seen in the past, I think Leviathan, they ran like a Moen crew with Captain, then they also ran a Holiday together, and we're like, wow, that's like so much pick. They had so much potential. They got off to a very good start, but then they fell off later on in the game. Abrahams was able to catch up in that specific match. Moen Krill has the backup of like, you're gonna have a strong enough early game with kill potential with Moen Krill, and then you're gonna have a strong late game with the fact you have Lash, Abrams, Dynamo, and even McGinnis all paired together, and then throwing in a Celeste on top of that, like you're just gonna be doing some dirty damage here. If you were to look at these compositions, maybe ignore the team names, who would you kind of give it to?
I think Abrahams has the better overall composition on that side of things, but I'll also note that like Leviathan has a very clear strategy and a very clear pressure that they're going to try and execute. Whereas as soon as you get to right around that like 7 to 10 minute mark, the teams are then going to end up, the Calico and the Rem are going to start roaming around. They're going to pressure the boxes across the map, pressure the Sinners together. You'll have Mirage TP being able to show up and add the pressure on top of it, and then you're split out on the solo laners for everyone else. So I think it's like, if you're able to avoid that pressure and just be calm on your rotation, Abraham's team should be able to clear, because again, like the amount of CC and team fighting potential with the fact that they are some of the best team fighters in EU, when you put that all together, that's just scary.
Oh, my boy Shark, what are they doing to him? I always talked about Shark in Buff Enjoyer's time and Virtus Pro time of like, he's a very selfless player. He's playing Moen Krill for them every time. It's not necessarily super fun to do, but he wants to win games, and they did win games. And then I've been talking about Abraham's. Oh, it's been so great to see him playing things besides Mo. He's been able to actually like show his hero pool and show what he can do. And coming to week 52, he's back on Moen Krill, unfortunately. But on the other side, I did want to mention, because we talked a lot about him, Demov, Calico. You were talking about him wanting to control the pace, control the fight, stuff like that. Calico seems perfectly up that alley for him.
Yeah, and I feel like Calico lately has been one of those heroes when you are able to get rolling, when you're able to get that pressure, and more particularly when you have people who are ready to react to your roams and be there with you, you're able to just push it that much farther, right? Think of how many instances where Calico just almost kills you and you get away. Now you add a Rem who's going to be roaming with her, and you get the pressure with Drifter, Mirage able to show up, or showing up to any of those lanes with a Geist or a Bebop who are able to follow up in a reliable manner. If Demov gets rolling, he can absolutely snowball this game. I think one of the big things that is going to need to be answered is, though, like how much of that extra economy are they going to be shoving into Demov? Because Rems a lot of time will sacrifice a lot of their economy and their souls to then end up getting the Sinners, getting those golden statues. And if Demov's picking up all of those, like how efficient is the Rem going to end up being? Because like he's going to be a lot of their team fight tankiness.
And that comes into the fact that I guess then for Leviathan, 8 minutes, you're looking for the jungle invade. You're looking for that control in the Sinners. Overseas on Bebop, it's a thing of beauty. I still will say, and I'll probably die on this hill until someone else proves me wrong, that he's the best Bebop in EU for sure. He's one of the few Bebops out there that can play defensively, like when you're behind, actually not even defensively, when you're behind in a game and still make big plays happen. But one thing I'm looking at for Leviathan here is actually like active items. I feel like Silence Wave for Demov, Arctic Blast, very good combo here to like to obviously silence them up, right? It gives your team a chance to capitalize, but also Arctic Blast to lock them down so they can't move. So you do have the ability to hit some really good hooks, or for the rest of your team to help, collapse on this attack. I think it's gonna be really interesting to see how Leviathan play out this early game comp. But what I'm hoping Sundown to not see here, especially on number 52, is Leviathan not have a strong early game and Abraham's win early on, because I just don't see them bouncing back at that point with the comp that they've assembled.
Yeah, your comeback opportunities for Leviathan's comp are very minimal. Like if you're not able to get the Drifter rolling, if Geist doesn't get to right around kind of that 25k, 30k soul mark where she's really that hybrid threat, whether she's going full gun or getting like that just amount of spirit in there, like you're not going to be able to reliably pressure this team, right? You're going to show up, and even with all of the silence waves, the curses, maybe the REM sleep, you're not going to prevent somebody on Abraham's from getting off a positive engage, and they're going to be able to follow up on it. They have enough tools to be able to do that, and then shown time and time again that they team fight almost better than anybody else in the region. And this draft is set up perfectly for that.
Did you notice? Because I just noticed. So OC's on McGinnis. I was like, okay, I mean, I can see it. Tass on Celeste. I mean, we've seen Tass play Drifter. We've seen Tass flex out his hero pool a little bit more. Celeste is going to be, I want to say, a true test for him because I think in my head Celeste is just so different than like all the heroes he's been playing. It's so much different than Doorman. It's so much different than Paradox, though there is some movement tech when it comes to Paradox. But the ability to move around, be at the right place. But more importantly, I feel like what Celeste does really well is like get in deep, but also get out. Like to be able to like bait a lot of attention towards you and survive. And I think this is gonna be really interesting to see if TAS can live up to what a Celeste needs to do in these games.
Yeah, Celeste really has the two insanely high skill ceilings. The first is the movement, and generally you can tell whether somebody has put the time in on Celeste or not because she moves completely different than almost any other character in the game. I think Lash is maybe like kind of close-ish, but his is very much facilitated by his grapple and being able to jump through and get himself up in the air on that side of things. And then, as you know, the other one is, can you push the limits? Are you able to go in and kind of get down the damage, get close enough to be able to get your burst off, pop the silence, use your shield to maximum efficiency, build up your stacks, and then get back out because you need to be doing all of that and then drawing aggro on this side. I think the one saving grace here is that TAS has a little bit more leeway on this side in terms of getting in and getting out when he does have the Dynamo, the Mo and Krill, and the Abrams sitting in front of him as well. He's not going to be the only one soaking up all of that aggro.
That's why I'm kind of thinking that OCs is probably playing a very gun-heavy McGinnis, even with the 5% nerf to the damage, which we didn't see at all North America. I think it was 3 picks in EU and then nothing in North America last week, but obviously maybe a little bit of an overcorrection from that quick little patch we had. If you guys are wondering, we're not waiting to start the game. We're not waiting 52 minutes to get the first game ready to go. We're just waiting a couple of players to actually ready up and get things underway. But once again, thank you guys for your patience and support here as we have made it a full year into the night shift. Man, Dynamo. How do you feel about Dynamo in general? You talk about like Rem and how you like playing Rem. I love Dynamo. I think he's super fun to play.
I mean, I love him. The problem is, like, you can't
Does he
pick
love
him
you?
in a world where Sinclair exists, right?
True.
Because as soon as Sinclair is able to grab that ultimate, the tools Sinclair has in order to get in the fights and do what Dynamo does effectively better on basically 1/8 of the cooldown in some of the circumstances, it just makes him so hard to play in a higher level environment. However, when you are able to pick him, I think he's insanely strong. I think he has a lot of numbers, and I think there's actually a decent skill gap that comes with him. Can he use that quantum entangle to pull teammates out of unsuspecting places, bait cooldowns, bait big spells? This is one of the things where you're able to get an insanely high amount of value, and this is something that really interests me. I'm really curious to see how these lane assignments go, because I think that'll determine a lot off of the rip.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's got to be Abrams and McGinnis together, right? There's actually I was going to McGinnis most. They can just non-stop shove this lane in the middle, look for the early Guardians. They're pairing Lash and Dynamo together, and they're pairing Celeste and Abrams. I was kind of hoping it was McGinnis Abrams because you have a lot of kill potential in that lane, but it seems they just want to unlock OCs and go for some quick Guardians here in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, just being able to get that push down, control the blue lane, being able to shove the other team out of it. Whoever gets that Guardian first unlocks so much of the map. And if you're able to do that early on, it generally does set a precedent for who's able to get kind of that early tempo, particularly if you're able to drop that before that 8 to 10 minute mark when those first sinners and the bridge buffs end up coming up. And you can see right now already trying to just get that shove in and get back and get the first buy off.
Okay, this Mystic Burst not too crazy coming on through here. Looks like all the lanes just shoved out that first wave extremely fast. But is there any other lanes that kind of interest you? Because I was almost expecting Bebop to be in middle, to be honest, to actually have some like kill potential in that lane. But it seems like they're more than happy to have D-Mob be able to flex between the left and right lane, which kind of makes sense if you're Calico looking for early pressure.
I dislike the Bebop into the Dynamo just by the nature that, like, if you do want any form of stacks in lane, you just don't get that option. As soon as he does have that entangle up, like, you're not going to be able to get that pressure down, which just basically negates some of the certain options for how you play. Again, we haven't seen a spirit stacking Bebop in a very long time. Wasn't expecting it in that regard, but it's also nice to at least like have that amount of pressure coming through in lane on that side of things. So I think that's one. However, pairing it off with the Drifter, if they are able to get a hold of the Lash or the Dynamo early on, they have a decent amount of damage they're able to put out.
And I mean, you mentioned the quantum entanglement before. It's also like super important, I feel like, to deal with the hook, because you can actually quantum entangle the person out of the hook when they get hooked. You can also, I believe, stop nap time from actually like landing on you too. But the dispel that's on it when you max it out going to be very important, I feel like, to deal with Mirage, to deal with like silence wave that could come through out of D-Mob or like Arctic Blast as mentioned before. I think there is a lot of potential for Saint to have some like massive value in this game, though it might not be like so easily visible in these fights.
Well, especially because Leviathan doesn't have a ton of engage tools, right? So if you're able to effectively negate one or two of them or one of their big picks and stopping that snowball rolling, that's just one additional tool you have for making it to that 30-minute mark where they're going to have a tough time fighting you if you're on even footing.
Yeah, look at this on this right-hand side for Abraham. Just a non-stop shoving task, just continually trying to push the wave. Obviously, Geist can be very easy to deal with these waves and keep them shoved back, but the pressure is on for Abraham, especially both of them taking extra regen. Really wanting to keep close proximity here against. Honestly, what's I'm gonna say is honestly a kind of weak lane that they're up against, because Geist isn't really gonna be doing too much damage until you get like the Mystic regen or the Radiant regeneration coming on through. Even though you do have the support out of Irazumi, who actually took opening rounds off the bat, so he's looking for some like counter damage.
Yeah, and I mean, Rem's gun hits very hard off of that start. Like, if you're able to get the headshots and actually push in, it helps out a ton, and you're able to actually get a decent amount of damage when combined with his base stats going through. I think the issue on that side is because, as you noted, Geist is so weak, and in the lane they're up against, there's so much burst on the creeps that come out from the Celeste and the Abrams that where Rem gets most of his pressure early is slamming that little helper on the healing creep and then just kind of pushing that in with the bonus resist and the heal on top of him. That doesn't really matter when the Celeste and the Abrams nuke that insanely fast.
Yeah.
That's just going to get them shoved in.
Well, we talked about the tunnels, and we're already seeing Irazumi rotate in from that right-hand side to look for tunnels in towards middle. Dimov, not so much just yet. He's just pretty much keeping... Well, he kind of has to stay in mid lane, I would say, unfortunately for him, because of the amount of pressure that comes his way with the Mo and Krill and McGinnis paired together. So he doesn't really have the flexibility to roam around. You're already seeing like the harass coming out of Tass. And, you know, I'm not really hating Tass so far. He's keeping the pressure on. I don't think he's stopped shooting for longer than 1 second this entire laning phase. It's not a bad start, but we'll see the movement, as you mentioned. Right there, that's the real key indicator here.
Yeah, CSE's got the movement, how he moves around the map, how he moves in team fight. Can he get those airstrafes down? Can he close the gap and get to where he needs to go to do the damage on this side? Speaking of doing the damage right now, oh man, that Drifter Ren just hits like a truck when he goes through. But I mean, Dynamo doesn't trade back poorly. He got 200 back on it by himself. And the one thing I also wanted to note here, Irazumi needs to be very careful about when he times those box runs down, because I'm almost positive he timed it when the wave crashed and they split that mid wave 3 ways over. And that's part of the reason why they're getting pushed in just a little bit harder as well.
Also have to be careful to not get caught out by Mo and Krill in the tunnels if that ever comes to fruition. I'm actually kind of looking forward to seeing that. I know you're a big Rem fan, but kind of have to side with ZP here. Seeing the rat die in the tunnels to a big Mo and Krill is hilarious.
Or just seeing the rat die, period. The grit pops and gets the tag along over to Saya, and it just barely gets him out, and that was so much damage. But over on the other side, Overseas able to take out Arzo to pick up the first blood, and that's what we talked about. That's what they're going to need to do in order to build up a lead. And I mean, hey, a 2K lead at 5 minutes and control of the bridge buffs, that's pretty good.
Yeah, it seems like they actually did punish the fact that Ars was left in the lane and Saint went to go take the buff on the left-hand side. And they get a nice little hook into a kill. And potentially take away this movement buff from Saint, but I think it'll be relatively fine. OC's, though, getting survival buff. Like, that's already disgusting. It's already hard enough to kill a McGinnis, especially with the heal that she has. But the fact that she can now shove this lane, Mo and Krill starting to roam around a little bit, though Shark is quite far off of that ultimate coming online, allowing a lot of farm to be fed over to OC's. And I mean, if anyone is going to be fed farm on this team and as an M1 hero, I think OC's would definitely be the one I would throw it to.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we've seen him be able to do that and kind of push that limit and be able to get himself all the way up there, get the souls he needs in order to carry the game and go through. And right now you can see that that pressure is turning down. This Guardian is about to fall, and they're not really going to be able to get the opportunity to fight. Like, Lash is too far away from his ultimate. I'm not sure Saint's going to get it on this next wave either. So a really good job by Leviathan punishing that roam for the bridge buffs that you were talking about. They didn't quite have enough pressure to be able to go get those, and now all of a sudden the map is crumbling around them.
That's why I'm kind of surprised, is that I expected Abrahams to go for like a hard shove in towards middle, clear out these waves, look for the early damage in the Guardian. Monster Round was not invested into out of either player in that lane to continually shove it on through. So they're relying on this left-hand side, I guess, to hold steady for now as they do take down Saint once again. Well, I'd say for the first time, looking for another kill into Arzo as the Matas keep coming on through here, but Arzo should be able to survive for now. 100 HP left and the heavy melee connects. Arzo gets revenge. And yes, Overseas very low in health here around the corner too.
Yeah, I'm not sure why they're sticking around a little bit there. It felt like they had gotten out cleanly if they just wanted to end up exiting, but they continued to try to brawl there, and now they will be able to push that back in. However, having that boost available and sending him right back to lane. No, I was going to say he should be able to get there in time, but the wave is now crashing. It looks like they'll hold it. However, jumping over the mid lane, Shark trying to get out, and nope, not going to do it as Empty Dreams takes him down there.
This is actually not a good sign here for Abraham's early on, but a fantastic sign for Leviathan, getting some early control that they're honestly going to need if they want to be able to take down Abraham's here. Another kill on a Saint would be ideal, but the Quantum Entanglement does dodge away from the Rend. Eternal Knight coming on through, and well, Saint's kind of left to himself here. I'm not sure how much help Overseas is going to be, and they're not able to confirm this into a kill, though. Hook did connect onto a minion. Actually, no, it connected onto Saint, and he just popped a Singularity right off, and it takes Overseas down.
Yeah, and he's able to turn that around, but they do get the trade back, and Freemock's completely happy with that, especially with the kill over on the other side. They should be able to push this Guardian down as well, and you're able to see now the roam back away from DMOC, trying to get up but away, but no, Arzo being chased back, and he's able to pick that one up, so good job by him there.
More importantly now, Shark as well has combo available. Going to be keeping an eye on exactly where he's going to be going, looking for some roam. OC's been left in towards middle, continue to farm, but so is Empty Dreams, and Empty Dreams is on 6.6k, currently the leader in the lobby. Well, I guess he's technically behind Arzo at the moment. Well, he's bouncing between them.
Yeah. I was just about to say, both him and Arzo, like, he had a huge lead. He was up nearly 1.5k on everyone in the lobby, but Arzo with that roam to equalize, with, again, Leviathan just staying up a little bit, allowing for them to equalize and get those trade kills, and it felt like they might have been able to exit, but that's kind of the lights of Drifter here, and right now living on the edge again as Arzo is able to get away without getting shut down, and Freemock also just barely able to get away, but he's suffering from the fact that he's now gone in basically 3 or 4 times in a row and just been chunked out, and he's sitting on that 5.1k.
I mean, I didn't expect Arzo to go right back in, but you know, his movement, considering Drifter isn't necessarily the best character to hop in and out of fights in terms of like movement abilities, he's making it look pretty damn good and pretty damn clean. His Demon's going to teleport it over. Going to be looking for ideally kill on the right hand side. No nap time up, no swap either. He's going to be heading quickly into the tunnels, maybe trying to spot the rat out himself, but this actually might be a kill potential and potentially our first guard in the game.
Yeah, he's looking to try and get around the backside here, see if he can't get around, gets the parry to disable it. They're trying to dive onto the Rem, separate him so he's not on the Rem, excuse me, onto the Celeste, separate him over on the side, but very good movement to get back into the back tunnel, force them to end up at least taking the Guardian, but they get the Celeste and the Abrams off of the turret, and they'll be able to trade that one back away.
Take down the guard in the mid lane. We can see OC's here intensifying, extended mag, monster rounds, and weakening headshot too. So he's going to have a lot of damage here, especially the longer these fights go on. And I think he's going to start to rotate around, looking for maybe some more Guardians. At left lane, I'm surprised to see that tower still alive, considering how much it's been battered and bruised. The hook comes in once again, this time on a Shark, and he falls another time. Not having the best of games, to be honest, but maybe looking for that Listic death power-up later on.
Trying to hit that fabled 10 death power spike. You know, it's don't worry, as long as I got the souls, ignore how fed the enemy is. It's fine, I got mine. But it's all right. We see here now the split going through onto those bridge buffs, with the gun going on to the McGinnis, and then the spirit buff going on to Empty Dreams here. Empty Dreams is really starting to accelerate a little bit, has opened up a 1k lead again on Arzo, and Arzo's really picking up a lot of his on the trade kills. So frankly, I think that if Abrahams is not able to keep finding these fights, Leviathan might be able to open up a little bit of a bigger lead, but that next fight is going to end up being huge here, as you see Freemock is able to turn in the urn.
I think it's mostly been built off the fact that we're seeing Abraham's continually put pressure on this left-hand side. They've grouped up with like 3, maybe 4 players in some of these skirmishes, trying to take this Guardian down, and more importantly, take some of these kills. So Arzo fine behind, with Empty Dreams just being left to a soul lane in the middle, almost 10k souls, with a casting buff as well. We're not used to really seeing a Mirage be like an M1 carry anymore, typically becoming like a secondary carry. And Sonya at 9.7, just right behind him. We haven't really even talked about Sonya, honestly, ever since we, initially discussed that right-hand side being a little bit weak early on, but he's been quietly farming away.
Well, and that's what happens as soon as the Rem abandons that lane and goes on his quest for Sinners. Whoever his lane partner was, with Sonya being the Geist there, just automatically then shoots up. You get everything on your side of the map, because the rat is then trying to steal the cheese from the other side, and you will then automatically see a buff end up coming through. Another good hook coming out from OCs, where they've been able to start a lot of these fights. But I mean, the real question comes down to, like, are Abrahams going to be able to get to these team fights in a manner where it matters? Because right now Leviathan is still managing to open up a pretty solid lead, and there's still a decent amount of farm on the map for them to be able to take.
I think the question boils down to, is 5K enough of a lead for Leviathan in their eyes at 12 minutes to be happy with how the early game went? And we haven't, I mean, we've seen them look for some ganks on the left-hand side. We've seen them look for on the right side, like out of D-Mob we saw in particular just a few moments ago. But now that they have like some freedom with some of these Guardians fallen, I'm really curious to see what they're going to do in this mid game here as they look to take down the middle tower. Really nothing there to defend against it. This is their opportunity, I think, to further bolster this lead. They already got an earned turn in. That was Freemock to secure that one before. What are they going to do with this first unstable rift coming up on the right-hand side?
Yeah, the Rift fight's going to end up being huge here. And then about a minute or so after, we'll see the second round of Sinners begin to pop. Rift has spawned over on the side, and we're actually seeing Dynamo getting caught out, getting forced to burn the Quantum Entangle here. And it looks like Saint's going to get taken down before the Rift fight even starts, and that is very unfortunate for Abrahams. There's no
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know why he was that far pushed up. And you can already see Abraham's on the minimap. They're just conceding this one, realizing they can't really contest, at least at the moment. Good little Dust Devil to actually knock them away. And the nap time coming in to follow up with. It's going to get a catch on together. And Taylor's extremely low in health. He's going to be burst down before he has the chance to use the seismic impact. But OC's going to be there, putting down the heals. No one's really actually using it too much on the Abraham side. So a little bit too healthy at the moment. But Tass is being shoved away. And it looks like Leviathan are getting a very clean take here.
It makes no sense why they're taking this fight after Saint was already taken down with Arzo so separated. All of your economy is on Arzo, but Arzo ended up coming in, and Saint died so early, he was then able to come back. He got the ultimate, but he was pulled out of it, and then Arzo able to try and get the Death Slam, but the distance and the separation from Leviathan was fantastic. The fight's still dragging on, but it looks like Leviathan will eventually clean this up. I don't know, it's tough. Arzo picks up one, Arzo picks up a pair, Overseas and D-Mob both down, and the Rift gets faded, so everybody looks up to grab the extra souls here. And honestly, not a bad fight for Abrahams considering how it started.
Yeah, a surprisingly good fight for them, honestly. If you look at how things turned out, Saint died initially off the get-go. Together died immediately after when they went to the engagement on the fight, and yet Saint was able to get back in time, look for the Quantum Entanglement while pulling away Sonya and Overseas away from the point. It eventually just gets nullified, but I feel like Abrahams came out kind of ahead in that, even though the souls don't reflect that. Was still a 5K lead, 6K lead here for Leviathan.
Yeah, I mean, as the souls end up growing, if you're able to keep that differential the same, technically you're closing the gap. I think one of the things we need to keep an eye on, though, is as we are at that 14-minute mark, all those Sinners are coming back up. We saw at least one was stolen over by the Rem. However, Abraham's doing a good job to then immediately go and cover those, address the pushing waves. And I mean, if you told me that they wouldn't be able to fully contest the Rift as a team with Dynamo and Lash, and they'd keep the differential the same, I'd call it a win.
Yeah, for sure. I think Leviathan, I mean, when we looked at it initially, I thought that was for sure going to be Leviathan Unstable Rift, but Abraham just waiting for that moment to strike, and it pays off. But still, they're going to be behind in souls. A lot of Sloan hexes being picked up across the board here. I think we've seen about like 4 or 5 of them currently. You can see Overseas has one. Fremont picked up one. I believe we've seen a couple on Abraham's side as well. And there we go. We have Shark able to get one for himself with a heal blade on top of that. Even to dispel magic, and plus 60. I think that's like, what, 1 combo kill so far? Maybe a second coming on through if they can take down Sonya in time, and the rest block it comes in time, but it doesn't have the exchange, and unfortunately he does get bursted down.
No soul exchange for Lady Geist, and unfortunately she'll get taken down. Big disarm value, but it's not going to be enough as the immediate trade comes out from Empty Dreams. That's a 4 kill streak, pushing him up to 15k so far. Only Arzo really kind of keeping pace on that side of things, but we do see a lot of farm now starting to get allocated over to OCs in that solo lane. He's catching up as well, and they're closing the gap ever so slowly. Was 4k, now 3k, and I mean, as we get to that 15-20 minute mark, as people start getting those first spikes, the first round of items, these team fights are going to be a lot more difficult for the Leviathan to be able to execute it.
Looks like Tiago's going to get the easy turn in here. Overseas does sacrifice himself to keep them away, and I'll have to actually correct myself with Overseas showing presence on the earn turn in. Seems like Together won't be going for the dunk just yet. Might just try to slide it in last second, though, as Fremock's going to be going down. The Trying Wonder being thrown on in. Does get the catch on Overseas, so just trying to run away with it. So he gets the earn. Abraham's come out with a 1-for-1 exchange, but with only a 3k difference now. I wanted to take a look when we had a moment at our golden statue buffs across the board, because as we mentioned before, with a Rem on the team and a Calico, you're looking at expecting Leviathan to have a lead, and I mean, they do. 36 for Irezumi so far, but not as big of a lead as maybe I expected at this point.
Yeah, I'm really proud of you for avoiding the obvious 6-7 joke that was up there, but you can see now on that side, they're going to keep opening up. The Rem is going to swallow a lot of those statues, but in addition to that, like, he has a pretty decent amount of souls still keeping up at 14k, and another good hook coming out from overseas, facilitating and doing a great job of making sure his team is finding those picks going through. And once you get hit by the hook, you get the knockup, you get the slowing hex. It doesn't matter who you are, even the tanky Mo and Curl getting bursted out there.
Would you believe me, Sundown, if I said I didn't even notice it said 6-7?
I do believe it was 6-7 to 7-6. That's why I was like, hey, palindrome, and then I was like, oh yeah, that's that number thing, right?
Okay, sure. I'm pretty sure you named yourself 6-7 in game. Let's be honest.
Oh no, not quite that far. I'm old man at this point. I was like, wait, that's the number? I thought it was +2. But in that regard, one thing I did also want to end up looking at as we come through is the fact that Sonya Sniper has now picked up that soul lead. He's up to 18k, not necessarily really involving himself too much in the fights, but we've seen what happens when Geist is able to get online. She has an absurd mix of damage output, tankiness, and sustain that makes it impossible to 1v1 her and provide a ton of value in team fights. And right now, again, immediately out here, Calico trying to get a pick. D-Mob will then turn it around. Together, trying to get out of this fight, not quite there as the knockdown comes through. Calico will get popped, and then together gets popped by the 3-man roam that we were talking about earlier. The Calico plus the Rem with Mirage showing up. If you're picked out, you are dead 100% of the time.
Sorry, I just seen D-Mob just run up behind together and just punch him in the back before doing anything was so funny. But I mean, that's the picks that you're expecting to have. And honestly, that's the picks that D-Mob can create for you. Being able to roam around and more importantly, just kind of see things without being noticed. But Leviathan, they're not really on Abraham's side of the map as much as I expected them to be. I mean, again, it's only 4k, so even with these kills, Sundown, it's not like they're creating a bigger lead. If anything, the lead is technically shrinking because that value becomes smaller and smaller the longer this game goes on.
Yeah, and frankly, too, it seems like a lot of their value has just been from overseas hitting these hooks and then being able to convert on these picks. And when that's not the reality and they're able to turn around, it's been Fremont getting taken out. Now the Rem will end up going down, and that's Irizumi, and that's in a very unfortunate spot as they're immediately going straight to mid-boss with 4 other theirs and being like, yeah, come fight us on mid-boss with Dynamo ult up and Lash ult up. Let's see how that goes.
Don't forget about the turrets and the wad of OCs, man. Like, yeah, I mean, he's not going to be here, but the threat of him, well, I guess they know he's not there, so it's not really that big of a deal. I need to shut up. But what I do need to talk about is the fact that there is going to be contested Leviathan. It looks like they did want to go initially for a fight here, but this is going to be so tough, man. A Death Slam, a Singularity, as you pointed out, there's a knockdown able to take him out of the Death Slam. Singularity catching multiple players, 3 hooked in, and that is going to be quite a few kills coming in for Abrahams. They take all 3 rejuves as well.
I mean, we talk about the high skill cap and the plays you're able to pull off on Dynamo. It's genuinely not difficult to just press your 4 buttons standing on top of the rejuve, right? You will get that value 100% of the time, and that's.
I feel like you're attacking me right now, man.
Hey, attacking you, attacking my solo queue teammates. You know what it is.
You know, every once in a while I hit like a 4-man ult, but you know, I pride myself on the 1-man ults and sometimes the whiffs that I pull off. But I mean, to be fair, I feel like ours, maybe the Death Slam came in early just to bait the knockdown. So Saint would have a relatively easy take with a Singularity, but either way, it worked out extremely well. And Abrahams are one of the best in the business when it comes to these mid bosses and now take the lead for the first time in the game. And Unstable Rift on top of this with 3 Rejuve Crystals left and an urn. This is going to be a landslide turnaround for Abrahams.
Yeah, the timing of that was absurd, right? Like getting that kill at 18 minutes, grouped up in mid. You have just enough power to be able to go and get it. You had all of your cooldowns available. Leviathan couldn't do anything but have like a hope and a prayer to go in and contest and at least like force the burn cooldowns. But then off of the back of it, Rift spawns, Urn spawns, Bridge buff spawns. So say goodbye to your control of the entire map, of all of the jungle, any of the farm. And realistically too, if Abrahams wants to group up and force a walker here right now, they more than have the capability of doing that.
I'm getting worried now for Leviathan. We did talk about before the whole strategy of being aggressive in the early to mid game. And now when they go on the defensive, how effective can Overseas be plus Irizumi with these nap times? Realistically, this is going to be one walker you can't really afford to contest. If you're going to, it's going to have to be with a big grouping of your team. And they're still kind of split and no real chance to really pull off a solid defense. OC tries to push in towards middle. Looking for some early damage. Look at the damage he's doing to Sonya, my lord. Able to shred him. Mercurial Magnum picked up 2 and Fleetfoot. This is disgusting.
Yeah, it's getting that fire rate and really pushing that particular part of McGinnis. I mean, the fire rate wasn't the problem, right? That's not the number they ended up touching in some of the circumstances. And yes, while she is slightly less effective, you still have an absurd amount of efficiency coming out from her. And then also, like, McGinnis can be played, as we've seen, in a bunch of different ways. Like, yes, they needed the gun on this side, but she's been effective with the walls and putting it out there. And I mean, OC is now showing, particularly when you get that movement buff and you're able to slide around the map, you're not stuck to that two-base movement. It's really difficult to force you off of anything.
I'm just happy not to see heavy barrage being maxed out here. Instead goes for the wall.
Yeah.
And the medicinal specter, so extra healing coming on through. The resist as well when you're grouped up on top of it, I believe, when you're maxed out now, which is one of the changes that happened just this last week. Yeah, this is scary, man. OC's, I would say, probably one of the most accurate. I don't have the numbers to back it up, though. I technically could go find it if we really wanted to, but one of the most accurate M1s in the game in EU. And when you're able to just train your entire clip with intensifying mags or intensifying round onto someone, you just see the pain that Sonya takes.
And he's so tanky now with this escalating resilience purchased on that last buy. He has the spirit res as well. So it's like, how are you killing him, right? He has the wall to be able to get the self heal. He's able to then drop down the Spectre meds, gets the bonus res. Like, he's tanking so much more damage while constantly just holding down that M1 and unloading that fire rate into your face. He's putting out a bunch of damage. And again, honestly, the star of the show, and it's really cool to see, Arzo on that lash, 28k now at this point. And he's gotten it by being able to facilitate these fights, get around, pick up the kills, react to where Leviathan is trying to get those picks, and then just be more effective. So really good job by him so far.
I think what's crazy is, like, the effectiveness that he's been able to show is coming without really the death slams. Because he's had like one that I've seen really be used, and that was in towards mid pit. He gets thrown with a knockdown, but whether it's a bait or not, it worked out in the end for them to take it. He's just getting crazy amount of farm and crazy amount of value of just existing sometimes in these fights. Just sometimes the threat sundown of his death slam is enough to keep teams away. But one thing we've also kind of overlooked within Abraham's composition is the fact they have double healing. I mean, I would even say almost technically have like triple healing, because Task can keep himself alive with the amount of spirit lifesteal that you get inherently within her kit. But the double heals is crazy for Abraham's, and they both have it maxed out.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of innate tankiness coming through, right? Like Lash with the flog, Mo and Krill being able to then pick that up as well as he comes through, both with the combo and then with his one being able to give him back some health. Like, Abrams just is a ball of tank, so is Celeste, so it's really hard to end up pushing through this. And then you note, too, that, like, it's 100% going to require an investment in anti-heal in order to cut through it at this point. And if you're already 10k behind, like, where are you going to be able to get that money? Like, it's so difficult to then make this team feel as tanky as they actually should be, because they're all just sustaining up on top of their innate stats.
We got Empty Dreams, got Rico Toxic plus Healbane. So you have at least out of him. You have Healbane out of Freemok. Sonya doesn't have a Healbane picked up, if I'm not blind, which I hopefully am not here. So they do have some anti-healing, but I don't think some is going to be enough here. And I think we just also hit a power spike for Saint. Warpstone, unstoppable. Plus Singularity, good night.
Yeah, I mean, all he needs at this point is Refresher, and even then, with his ultimate available, he's able to coast on that fact. Like, this next team fight is 100% going to then open up the map if they're able to execute off of that. If they get even more than one person in that Dynamo, and even the solo out on the right person should be enough. They have control over both of the bridge buffs going through. The health buff on the McGinnis that we just talked about was already so absurdly tanky. Like, how are you dealing with this? And then in addition to that, she has the Berserker, so as she ends up getting lower, just getting that value out of it, I mean, it's so tough. You have to just nuke her. She has to get 100 to 0'd or you're losing the fight.
Is he really going hollow points next? I haven't seen that item in what feels like forever. I was hoping maybe for like a Vamp Burst or like a Frenzy or something picked up, just make him even more tough to deal with. But 4k HP, how you just can't kill this McGinnis. 28,000 souls. Can we once again get a check-in on Golden Statue Bus while we have a second here while the urn's being ran across? So we might see a fight. 131, 143. Actually, Abraham's been able to take the lead back for themselves here. Obviously, Irezumi's been continuing to build it up, but I mean, yeah, great. You have your income through that, but what are you really going to do with the Golden Statue Bus minus like the CDR that you get and the Spirit Power? And even that's not really going to be enough when you're at 22k and you're up against a 31k Lash, a 28k McGinnis, and even a 26k Celeste.
Yeah, if anything, those golden statue difference is even bigger because the stats on Rem just aren't they're so focused on him, and he really only uses kind of the spirit and that cooldown super effectively, right? Everything else is like, yeah, it's nice to have, but past 15 minutes, it doesn't move the needle at that point. And now we're looking at it, it's just like, if you're Leviathan, how do you go about actually taking an even number fight? I don't think you can. And right now, Fremont is desperately running for his life. Will Park the Resto Locket trying to get down into the sewers, but we've seen so far that that's not a safe place, as Mo and Curl will have Ozo secure that again as he pushes himself up. 32k combo comes out. Lady Guy Saya is going to get taken out before he's able to get a spell. Rem gets thrown off of the tag-along, and I mean, this is just pick after pick from the team fighting team. Mid boss is already back up, and Leviathan is just going to have to acquiesce the entire map. Pretty much again, they might get a pity walker here out of Empty Dreams, but this is so tough.
I mean, to be fair, that is his second walker of the game he's been able to get, but I don't think that's going to be enough to keep him in the game. He keeps the lead to 6k, but you can't really defend this 1v5. Though he might try. I mean, Tox is going to help quite a bit, but they're just going to have so much damage, so much control, and they're even just going to chase you away as well. So Abraham's 6 crystals in a row. They will lose a rift on the right-hand side, but again, not too big of a deal. Maybe if they get this kill, actually take away one of these rejuve crystals onto Mo and Krone to Shark under his own walker. He's actually able to chase D-Mob back instead because the rest of Abraham's are going to be here, and maybe they get a catch on the D-Mob.
Yeah, honestly, frankly, a really good job by Leviathan by limiting the amount of damage so far, being able to pick up the rift, being able to pick that up. D-Mob, though, potentially a little greedy. Oh my god, being able to slash right up to the top, getting the movement out, using the wall jump to then create the distance, but there comes the wall. There's the McGinnis value. It does not matter how smooth you are, D-Mob, as McGinnis throws that wall up in the face and says, "You shall not pass."
That's dirty. Clearly, OC's been playing a lot of McGinnis here. Like the timing on hitting that wall to deny the retreat from D-Mob. Not going to be a man down. There's one walker left to take. And you can already see Abrahams are looking towards those shrines at the same time, allowing Saint to solo push the left-hand side. Can we actually maybe get a check with unspent souls? Because you mentioned refresher from Saint. And I'm curious, how close is he actually getting to it at this point of the game? 5.2k. He's going to have it right around the corner. And this just spells death for Leviathan.
Yeah, you see the other walker is going to fall. You can't walk out and contest at this point. You basically just have to give your entire base. And I mean, look at the mini map in the bottom right-hand corner. Irezumi is just trying to get whatever he can right now, going on an adventure to try and steal away the sinners, saying, guys, we need to get something on the map at this point because we are in a tough shape. But I'm now immediately a little bit worried as he is behind enemy lines, trying to yoink whatever he can. He should be able to get underneath, but that is a pretty thick unsecured bag he's got sitting on himself.
Yeah, but like, what is he gonna do there? I don't think there's really much of a worry. Oh, here we go. Here's the wall from OC's point of view. I got it. This is just disgusting. This has. Oh my god, he does it without even being able to really see where D-Mob is. That has to go down as one of the best plays of the month.
That wall is fantastic too because it blocks that entire hallway off, right? And it's from an angle where you're not able to see it. So you know he's cast that wall multiple times. That's putting in the hours, that's putting in the work. And it's part of the reason why Abrahams is able to end up going this through. There's the Death Slam that we were talking about. He's able to end up only finding one. And it was kind of a consolation prize anyway since Sonya was so low. Able to then get the ground slam going through, trying to get the damage onto OCs. OCs will get another pick and send together back into the base, but he just hops his way on out as the shrines begin to fall. And I mean, I think this is, I want to say the beginning of the end, but the reality, this is the end of the end. Like, Abraham's is just pushing this through.
I'm glad you said it because that's exactly what I was going to say. It definitely ain't the beginning. Look at the lead they have. They still have 300 crystals left together. Just going to sacrifice one to get back on full HP. Ours are on 39,000 souls. Maybe they'll back away because at the end of the day, it is still a best of one. And you don't want to be throwing your chance to take on Buff and George and win your portion of the 2k bucks for EU side. But Fremont gets caught out. And yeah, I think that's the final nail in the coffin. The Fat Lady sung, whatever you want to say. The last straw on the camel's back. I don't know if you have any more. I think I'm 3 and done.
Yeah, I think, like, you know, the proof is in the pudding here. Like, I don't know. That's the game's over at this point. You can see here they're making the last ditch effort, trying to do what they can. The little questionable pause coming through on that side, and then letting them know we're ready. You know, might be a little little slip from a past game where you press P to purchase real quick on that side of things. But honestly, no shock for Abrahams here, able to end up finding the key team fights at the right times on the clock to then take out the best of one. And they're going to be the ones who will challenge Buff Enjoyers this week in that best of 3 championship match.
So Goat Lime in chat brought up exactly something I wanted to talk about here because I mentioned in the draft, and we have to discuss it now. First picking Rem, the priority you put on a hero, and the value that you get in the game. We did not see that value, unfortunately. And I understand we got a lot of golden succubus, and I understand at the end of the day, it's not just one hero that determines how the game goes, but to put your investment onto Rem when there's like so many other like high tier heroes you could go for here, I feel like, I mean, obviously if they had a game plan behind it, but it just did not work out whatsoever.
Yeah, it felt like they weren't able to really push it to its ultimate limit because he was absolutely ahead. We talked about it right after that fight, what they were able to end up picking up, and he had a decent soul lead, but it didn't convert into the actual tankiness that Leviathan needed. They needed the tag-alongs in there. They needed the sleeps to be able to stop the amount of movement in the team fight from Abrahams. They needed it to be reactive and to be able to shut down their opponents, and it just wasn't there. You needed to be able to basically have kind of a little bit of a stopgap to let this Mirage, let this guy's power up. And then I'll also note too that I feel like Fremok on Drifter just had one of those unfortunate Drifter games where you just don't quite get the kills by such a thin margin. The number of times that Arzo did the typical Lash escape at the very last moment, getting away with sub 50 health, and then having the cavalry show up, or Arzo being the cavalry and being able to then trade Fremok back out and preventing him from building up the stacks and the souls was a really good job. So honestly, like, hats off to Arzo. He showed up. And then I also want to give a little bit of flowers to Taz. Like, we asked the question, it's like, do you have the Celeste? Like, is that in your back pocket? Are you able to play it? And all of the stall that happened on that first Rift fight was Taz bouncing back and forth between the pillar, underneath the bridge, and drawing so many cooldowns, allowing Satan Arzo to get back in and rescue what should have been pretty much the start or end of Leviathan's snowball.
Yeah, that was, I mean, it was a crazy game, honestly. And Leviathan had the start I feel like that they wanted, right? We did discuss like a 5-6K lead, but that lead never grew. And I think that's the unfortunate part. Like, they did get some momentum in the beginning. I think OCs did a great job of continuing to farm up in that middle lane, and also to point out he didn't get like sup stam. I almost expected McGinnis to get sup stam considering he only have 2 stamina bars, but he did it without the amount of healing, amount of protection and tankiness he had in front of him, but continued to farm up. Even up against a Mirage, who I feel like should be able to win relatively easy, not easy, but should be able to win that relatively early on until we hit some major items for the McGinnis. I'll take a look at some of the stats here. And I mean, look at the healing. You had 36K between Saint and OCs for their team.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're
that's
just able to keep that sustain up there. That's so strong for just keeping your team out on the map. And I mean, you compare it to the quote unquote, like, one of the stronger healers in the game on Rem, and Rem got 12K out, right? And it's just like, looking at the Rem's items too, I don't think the Scourge is necessarily going to rescue your team there and get them more damage. I think you need a little bit more utility to shut down the enemy team and prevent them from pressing all of those buttons.
Button pressing does win you games. Look at Arzo, 9-1-8, 39,000 souls. Maybe on the other side, you know, Demoff, I think we didn't discuss him a little bit. I think he had some impact early on. We saw some good rotations, like into the left lane to look for some kills and to keep pressure into that lane in general. But I feel like because he was up against like a Mo and Krill plus a McGinnis in the mid lane, he didn't really have the flexibility to rotate out as often as maybe he wanted to. Either way, it just, I don't know. I don't really know what else to say about Leviathan, because it seems like every week we're looking for them to just unlock something within this team that they're currently lacking. It's just been, unfortunately for them, consistent losses up against Abrahams. And we know they're a strong team. Like, they're an insanely strong team. Individually, they're very good players. But something's missing right now when it comes to developing their compositions and, more importantly, executing them.
Yeah, I would say if I'm going back and I'm Leviathan and looking at that game, I'm looking at what could we have done in that first Rift fight to actually secure it and push that all the way through, because they had a window. They had picked Dynamo out before that. Can they be a little bit more aggressive on their spacing and how they take the fight? It took Arzo forever to get over there, and there was absolutely a window where they could have won it. And could they be just a little bit more lethal in that aspect? And I would say on the other side of it is, I mean, Fremok put out an absurd amount of damage. Like, 32K is a lot. But with how much tankiness is there, like, were you going just a little bit too deep to try and get those kills? Which with Drifter, you don't really get much of an option, but did you have some opportunities to get kills and then potentially get out early on to prevent Arzo from being able to take over the game?
Well, I think it's time to take a look here at our MVP of this first match of the day. With still the winners of Abrahams to take on Buff Enjoyers next, and our MVP will be Saint coming on through. You know, I feel like you're getting a little bit of shade. Maybe you're just sad he hits you with singularities too many times when you're on Rem, but you know what? The singularities that connect, the ones he connected with, they did the job, man. And that's kind of all you really need to do as a Dynamo sometimes.
Yeah, I think one of the things that he did fantastic was being reactive with the singularities and making sure he got the most value out of them in the right situation. So you can see right there, both in the fight on the first pop, but then also at the Rift fight where he had got caught initially, but then coming back in when Arzo ended up showing up, he's able to get there, get what's down. And then on this fight in particular, he takes a really good angle to make sure he's securing on top of it. They know he's going to be there and trying to get in, but you still have to be able to execute. And that's what Saint was able to consistently do to set his team up for success. I probably would have given it to Arzo. I think the last was a little bit more effective and a little better when it came to turning those early game fights and going through. However, this is a 1A, 1B type situation because some of these ults absolutely secured his team the fight and made sure they were able to push it all the way down.
Yeah, I think honestly, everyone on the team had their own individual standout moments when it came to that entire match, but it came at the end of the day with Abrahams once again onto the challenge of the team they cannot seem to beat of Buff Enjoyers. But that's coming up next. But before we get to that, remember, this is the Intel Gamer Days. From now until September 13th, you have the ability to get 2 games with qualifying purchase. If you type !IGD in the chat, you can see what you can pick up here. We have Tomb Raider, Legacy of Atlantis, and Star Wars Galactic Racer. Now, Sundown, I'm kind of hoping you didn't watch me talk about this last week, but if you were to choose, if you only could take one of those 2 games, which one would you choose and why?
Oh, now this is pod racing, 100%.
Ah, my man.
But I would have to pick Tomb Raider because I have Star Wars Galactic Racer because that was like, I grew up playing that game. I love that. I always just like, particularly the Phantom Menace pod racing scenes and then being able to actually like go in and play all of that stuff. I felt like I was all the way through on that side of things. So definitely worth going through and getting one of these qualifying purchases in order to pick up the game because it's a nice little bonus add-on on top, right? Like whether you're going back to school, you need to upgrade your setup. It's always nice to get a game that comes with one of those things. So, and 100%, by the way, like Star Wars Galactic Racer is fantastic. It is worth the playthrough 100% if you end up getting it, whether you buy it or you get it through the qualifying purchase of one of the Intel items, which are also super awesome.
Okay, one more question about this. One hero in the game has to be transformed into Lara Croft with the outfit. Who does it the best?
Ooh.
I can't say Lash. Lash is a cop-out.
I was going to say, is Lash the cop-out answer? I
can see Rem.
I feel like young Lady Geist, right? Like a young Lady Geist as Lara Croft would be there because like I feel like Lara Croft, if you dressed her up and like aged her up, that could be Lady Geist, like a little bit less proper on that side of things. I think that would be a fun one. I would also note that I feel like Apollo would look very interesting in that outfit, and that's all I'll say.
Yeah, I can see it for sure. 100%. 100%.
Come on, man.
Exactly. But you guys remember to type !IGD to find all about those deals, and you can actually support our sponsor here of Intel, making this happen for the next 4 weeks. Well, we're into week 2 out of week 4. But ladies and gentlemen, that means we do have to head to break, but when we come back on the other side of this break, we get treated with a very sexy matchup once again. Buff Enjoyers take on Abrahams. Buff Enjoyers looking to defend their title for, it seems like, their umpteenth time. Or can the Abrahams finally overcome Buff Enjoyers and get a dub on the screen? We'll see and find out.